Hello and welcome to the Say Yes Movement podcast with Heather and John, where we help you with your professional and personal growth, helping you say yes to all the scary stuff. Hey Heather, how is it going?
It's going good, John. It's Celebration Friday. I'm so excited to
Woo-hoo-hoo.
get to the end of the week. I'm so excited to celebrate the week. And for anyone that's listening, we want to celebrate with you. So put your celebrations, the things that you're most proud of, in the comments, and we will make sure to reach out and say congratulations. So it is Celebration Friday.
Yes.
So, John, this week has been a really amazing week for connection, for collaboration, and for feedback. And we always say to our audience and to each other, if someone crosses your mind, send them a message.
Yes.
And I got a beautiful message that was completely unsolicited from someone that I hadn't talked to for a really long time. And I'll tell you, it even took me a whole day to respond because I had to bring the message into my heart, into my head. So, I'm celebrating that this idea of giving feedback all the time. And when someone pops into your head, just reach
Yeah.
out to them, because I was the recipient of that. And it was so powerful, John, so powerful. So I'm
Yeah.
celebrating feedback and connection. How about
Oh,
yourself?
I love it. I love it. Listen, I'm with you. And that's something I've been introducing into my own personal practice as well. Is just someone pops into my head, just send them a quick message. Hey, I'm thinking about you. Just want to say hi. And you're right. In 80 to 90% of the cases, people will say, how did you know? Right. No, this week I'm celebrating just consistency in weight training. I've
Mhm.
introduced some weight training into my program outside of the swimming, biking, and running. And I'm also celebrating that I'm making a bit of a pivot, right? Like this is something I've been sitting on for a while. I know I claimed to the world I was going to do this half Ironman in July, and that's changed.
Ooh.
What I've decided to do is to do like smaller events throughout the summer. So I'll probably do like 5 short sprint triathlons. And really, the goal of that is just to keep me fit, to keep me motivated, to keep me going. And that's why I've introduced the strength training part of it, because I want to get faster. So, this is for everybody who's listening, who set the goal. If you set the goal at the beginning of the year and you're like, wow, I really want to do this, just know it's okay to make a pivot. And I'm doing it. So I'm, publicly putting it out there. I'm making a pivot. Doesn't mean I'm letting go of that big goal of staying fit and getting my activity in every day. I'm still pushing hard. I'm still moving forward. And I've introduced some other stuff that actually has broken the monotony, the routine of just doing those 3 exercises. And can I tell you, weight training is it's pretty tough. So for me, it's a bit of a stretch. I'm like push-ups and burpees and lunges and deadlifts. I'm like, oh man, like this is good. This is good because my body is feeling different. And I think for the most part, I told everybody this year is a big milestone year for me. So I'm really trying to push myself in a slightly different direction. So
John,
that's
I'd
what I'm
love to
celebrating.
explore this because oftentimes people, they have a goal, they put it out there publicly, and then they feel like a failure because they're
Mm,
changing the direction. And I love that you've analyzed this in terms of, do I want to do one big event, or do I want to do a bunch of smaller events that actually has me change my routine, change my progress, change how I'm feeling, and still achieve the ultimate goal of what you wanted to do. And I
yeah.
think that's the piece that many people are really challenged with. They're like, you know what, if I can't meet the goal, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do anything. And then they get into inaction because they feel like they might have not stayed on track. Whereas when you pivot, and this word is really key to
Yeah.
success, when you pivot, your goal hasn't changed at all. Your outcome has not changed at all, because
Yeah.
the outcome, the bigger one, was to get healthier, to get stronger. And so how you
Yeah.
get there is it can change along the way. And that's just so important,
Yeah.
this word pivot. So John, like what's the
Yeah.
process that you went through for coming to this conclusion?
Yeah, I think you touched on something really important. There was a moment where I felt shame, right? Like, I proclaimed it to the world, right? Like, this is what I was going to do at the beginning of the year. And there was a shame attached to like saying something publicly to the world. And it's like, but now I'm not going to do it. And it's like, should I be ashamed? Like, can I be like, at the end of the day, who cares, right? Like, I'm doing what I want to do for me. And, the people have, reached out and they're like, oh, we're really supportive of what you're doing and what you're trying to hit. So the first part, I think, for me, as I was going through this process, is just letting go of shame and other people's expectations, right? Because
Mm.
big on claiming to the world, if you've got a goal, share it with the world, because the world will come in and support you, right? The world will come in and give you guidance. The world will be there when you really, really need them, the universe, right? So it was that piece of it, and just letting myself know that it's okay, right? Like there was that internal part of me, and you and I, we're, when we move forward and make a decision, we're going to go towards something. We go hard, right? And sometimes we forget that sometimes we just need to pause and say, well, is this right for me right now? And that's what I
Mm.
sat with. And you know what? This wasn't an easy decision, right? Like this is something, it took weeks back and forth in my head. Oh, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to, and I didn't enjoy it anymore, right? Like
Mm.
that's where that's the part that really changed it for me. It was like, I'm not enjoying this. Why am I doing this? What else can I do instead? And then really that's what I started to focus on next, was what can I do next? What can I do that's aligned with this? Because I still love it. Don't get me wrong. I love being on the bike. I love being in the pool. I had a great experience, swimming in the pool, learning from a gentleman who's 71, who goes into the pool 5 days a week, and he swims his, he does his 1250 meter laps, so I'm finding that inspiration around me. And I'm like, you know what? I can just pivot and do something different, because that to me was actually more enjoyable. And, I talked about celebrating the weight training at the beginning of the call. And that to me is actually a little bit more enjoyable, and that's fun, and it's different, and it's a new challenge. Right. So, the back and forth in your head is really where things can get stuck. And you're right. And I think you touched on something really important. We tend to just like give up instead of like, okay, what else? Right. And I love that, because I know that's something I've even learned for you. Like, what else can we do instead that's still
Yeah.
going to get us where we want to be? Right.
Instead, I love that. And I think this is a common mistake that people make, where they come up with a goal when the goal is actually the how. And for you, the goal was not the Ironman. The goal was to be strong and to be healthy and to really, have a routine that supports that. And then one of the actions was an Ironman. And you can replace those actions with, okay, I'm going to replace it with weight training. I'm going to replace it with all kinds of other activities and sign up for those other events. So, people get confused about what's the outcome that you're looking for and what's the actual actions that you need to take to get to that outcome.
Yeah.
Your outcome did not change. And so we feel shame because we've declared that we're going to do something and then we're going to pivot. That makes no sense. In fact, there's nothing but change around us. In fact, we should be celebrating pivoting. We should be celebrating, okay, this is not working for me, so I'm going to do something different. And it doesn't matter if it's a health goal, a work goal, a career. People are staying in jobs way too long, way past their ability to feel fresh and have new exciting ideas. And why? Because they don't feel that they should pivot. I've heard stories, and in fact, some of these stories have been in my own head. Well, when I hit a certain age and I can retire,
Yeah.
I can't leave because my pension is there. Oh, I've already got my seniority that's too long. Wow, those sounds awful. That sounds like a cage you're in, right? And people, but this is their belief system, and some of it's from our parents, some of it's from older. I remember my parents worked for companies for years and years and years. John, me and you have put in many years into corporations as well, but that's not a way to be your best version of yourself. The best version of yourself needs a pivot. And you can pivot in your own company. So I'm not saying you have to leave your corporation. What I'm saying is, if you're not challenged, if you're not like waking up every morning going, oh, I can't wait to do this, then this is your body and your mind telling you, and your heart, it's time to pivot. So if you're wondering, what are those things? And John, you shared some of those things that you were feeling, but you probably felt it in your body too, that it was time to pivot.
Yeah, no, 100%. And actually, I've been having a lot of conversations with my coachees around this, right? Because they're, they've been sitting in roles for a while. They've been thinking about, what do they want to do next? And, they call it the golden handcuffs, right? It ties you into, I can't leave. I got my package. I got my stocks. I got this. I got that. And ultimately, when I think about my own personal pivot with, kind of switching to something different, is like, how does it feel? Right? Like, how does it, like, if you feel like you're going into work and you're drained and you're dreading and you're waiting for Friday, not because you're celebrating, but you're waiting for Friday because it's the end of the week and you don't have to be there anymore. You can disconnect from the office. But then Sunday night clicks in and you're like, oh, the dread is like, oh my, like your body starts to feel ill because you know what's coming, right? That's when you know it's time to pivot. Right. And that's exactly what I went through, because I was going through the routine of, okay, let's get this much distance in, let's get this much time in. And it just didn't feel good anymore. Yeah. And one thing I think that's really helped this year, and I want to share this with everybody, the one thing that I feel that's been really, really helpful has been the meditation piece. Right. One of the best lines I heard, it was from Bob Proctor. He says, when you pray, you're speaking to God. I'm just using that. But when you meditate, you're letting God speak to you. And I know, a great line. I love it. And, the one thing I realized through meditation, there's a clarity that comes from just listening to yourself, right? Listening for that internal guidance. And, this year specifically, things have really opened up in a big way for me, because I've been just listening to what's coming, right? Listening to how I feel, listening to what's going on in my body, listening to just myself, like kind of feeling and being in those emotions, and then making decisions from that place. And I think a big part of it is if we can tap into that. I know you tap into that, Heather. You do it all the time, right? You're getting into that place because the meditation piece is where you stepped into last year. And getting that guidance and making those decisions, they just become clear and they feel good. And don't get me wrong, it's not like there's not going to be any challenges. There isn't going to be any resistance. Of course there is, but it's going to be in a way that doesn't feel like icky, right? I'm using big words now, right? It doesn't feel icky. It doesn't feel icky. It feels like, you know what? Yeah, this is tough, but this is good, right? Like there's that sense of fulfillment. Yeah.
I love it when when I'm working with clients and I ask them, let's try on the worst case thing. Let's try on your fears, and where in your body do you feel that? And is it really that awful? And then let's try on the best case scenario, and let's see how that sits in your body. And there's different emotions that can be activated by doing that process, but you have to get quiet and inside of your body to really listen and hear those things. John, I'll go back to our words for this year. Both of us chose believe as our word. And, as I hear your story, as I hear your pivot, how is that word influencing this decision?
Yeah, wow. That's a good one, Heather. I like that. Just believing and making the right decisions at the right time, right? Because it's easy. It's easy to say, well, no, I'm going to do this. And I've already told everybody I'm going to do this. And I think that's part of where the resistance came from for signing up for this thing, right? Because I can't even tell you how many times I went to the website to say, okay, I put in my information, click register. I got to the point where it's like you're supposed to register, and for whatever reason I walked away. I'm like, something's off here. And I did that like 4 or 5 times, right? So It's not like I just did it once. I'm like, this doesn't feel right? Like, listen, I am going to do another Ironman at some point, and I know exactly where I want to do it. And it's not in North America, it's in Europe. So, just knowing that too, right? Like, if I'm going to go do this, I'm going to like just be really, really excited about it like I was last year, right? Because, I want to feel good as you're going through. Like internally, you want to feel that excitement. Like, fear and excitement is the same feeling in our body, but that excitement moves you forward and fear holds it back, right? And I want to feel the excitement. I want to like, okay, let's just, let's move forward in this. And listen, I'm giving myself a little bit more time to get stronger, to be better, and, just try things in a different way so I can get excited again. And, the same is for our careers, right? Like if we're stepping into careers that we really love, we really enjoy, and, we're giving back to our teams in a really big way. And I think you touched on something incredibly important. You can be in your role today and create that for yourself. And that's really I've been spending a lot of time with my coachees, kind of working them through that. It's like, what can you do in your role today to expand your role, right? Like sometimes we talk about getting into promotions and into other departments and different organizations, even different companies. But sometimes what you have right in front of you is all you really need,
Mm.
right?
And that's the
And
pivot that you can do is,
mhm.
I remember back when I was looking for a promotion, I went to my boss and I said, can we have coaching sessions as if I'm already in that job? And
Ooh,
it was really, really incredible because then I asked to be given feedback as if I was making decisions at that next level. And so we would do some mock decision making. And this boss was really good. They would start to bring me problems to solve that were bigger than my role, bigger than what I was prepared for, but allowed me to work through. It's kind of like case studies. It's, but it was real life case studies. And that, I'll tell you, this was a hard thing for me because I was exceeding expectations. And now my boss was telling me that I wasn't making good decisions. Well, of course not. I wasn't ready for that next level. And so,
yeah.
over the few months and I think it was about a year till I moved up into that next level, I was practicing every day at a different level. And I was sort of trying to anticipate what were the decisions that people above me were making or going to make and why. And then what happened is I got super curious about, why did you make that decision? What data did you use? How, what was the factors that you considered? Why was this the best decision? So it actually changed my curiosity to be thinking
Mm.
at a different level, because you have to practice thinking at a different level to be at a different level. Just like you have to practice being, doing your strength training to be stronger. This is what
Yeah.
pivoting looks like.
Yeah. No, and listen, I think you touched on something really important. I don't want to let go of this, and I want to acknowledge this, that you asked for that, right?
Mm,
You asked for the support. A lot of people, they feel stuck in the roles because they're like, okay, what do I do? I'm like, what can you do? And one of the first things you can do is just go ask for help, right? Or go talk to somebody, whether it's your manager or, your skip level manager, whoever that is, to get you into a place where it's like, okay, what could I be doing? What does the next level look like? If there's any skills or if there's any pieces of things that I'm missing, I love this new feature inside of Mac. If there's anything that I'm missing, what can I do today to prepare me for what's next?
yeah.
Right? But you have to ask for it. You can't just sit on your laurels waiting for it to come to you. And I think that's where a lot of people are making that mistake. It's like, but I've been in this role for like 10 years or 4 years or however long you've been in the role. Nobody's going to give it to you. Right.
Yeah.
And it's not because they don't want to. Sometimes they don't even know that you want it. And I know, personally in my own career, one of my directors came up to me. He was like, so what do you want? Like, what do you want to do with your career? Where do you want to take it? And at the time I wasn't thinking. I was just like, I'm okay with what I'm doing and this is it. Right. And we ended up having a conversation 2 years later. And he said, when I asked you that question, it's because I wanted to put you into a senior management training to get you ready for that next role, but you didn't seem interested, so you didn't get it.
Ooh,
And I'm like,
whoa.
whoa, right? Like, and that was ultimately always my goal, is to get to that next level inside my role. And I missed on it because I didn't ask for it, nor did I express interest in getting there.
Yeah.
So, a lot of times we're sitting there like, okay, what do I do? Go ask for it. Let people know what your intentions are. Yeah.
Ask for it and declare it. So the more people you tell what you want, the more people will be able to help you. And it might be your friends, it might be your family, it might be your boss, it may be a coach or a mentor that you have. But the more people you tell, the more people will ask you questions that will get you thinking in that term. So, I think we've covered so much, John, in terms of pivoting. And what I want to acknowledge is pivoting does not mean changing everything. Pivot is just one small change to move yourself towards the direction that you want to go, and trying that on for a little bit and seeing, is this feel right? And the other thing is, what's your measurement of success in all of this? Make sure you're clear on what the measurement of success is. Many people that feel that they need to change their career or change their relationship, all they actually need to do is focus a little bit more on communication and center themselves in, what is it that I want to say success looks like?
Yeah.
I made that decision a long time ago that success for me every day of my entire life looks like positively impacting at least 5 people a day. And so that's what I aim to do. And even when I'm all by myself, I still look to do that because we have technology that I can reach out to lots of people. So the call to action for everyone is, what is it that you want to pivot on? And what's one action, just one small thing that you can do
Mhm.
to make a small pivot? And who are you going to tell? Those are the two things to
Yeah.
do today.
Yeah, I love that. No, that's fantastic. And yeah, no, where do you need to make a pivot? And be okay in the decision to make the pivot, right? And just know that we're here to support you. If you got any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to either one of us. We can help you support through that pivot as well. So thank you for listening to this episode of the Say Yes Movement podcast. Just remember, when you shift your mindset, you shift your life. Wishing you all a great one. Talk to y'all soon. Take care, everybody.